everybody, with this beautiful, fantastic afternoon. It's nice out. Anyway, it's like to say hi, and we're going to continue our series today on the recovery process from codependency. We'll be doing self-parenting and affirmations today. So I want to begin by doing a reading from one of my meditation books called Food for Thought. It's a simple little reading, but it fits into our pattern for today. The power of love. Love is the best motivation. When we are plugged into our higher power, we are plugged into love. It flows through us like a current, energizing our sluggish hearts and minds. As we work the steps of our program, we are given increased ability to love. By turning over our lives and our wills, we become receptive to the love which surrounds and sustains us. By taking inventory and being ready to have our character defects removed, we're able to get rid of old ways of thinking and acting which have been blocking our love. We cannot produce love for others by ourselves. We can receive it from our higher power. We can even receive love for people we don't particularly like. Love gets energy for action and directs its course. May I, on this day and every day, grow in love. I just want to emphasize this before I start. At the end of the session today, I'm going to give you 5 different little suggestions if you really want to kind of work on the recovery process from codependency. So if you don't have a pencil and paper or a pen and paper, if you have one, at the end of the session, I'll give these 5 things to you, and there are ways in which we can continue this process we're talking about today. I want to start by saying last week we talked about the first 2 stages of recovery. We talked about education and about building and developing the support system. I mentioned the fact that the best way to do this type of work, to really work on our codependency issues, is not to do it alone, but to do it in conjunction with maybe 2 or 3 others. The reason behind that is we have a tendency to be our own worst enemy. And so many times we have a tendency also to stay totally in our intellect, but we learn from interacting and connecting with other people. And that's one of the reasons why that second stage is called building a recovery support group for yourself. And that can take a lot of faces in a lot of different directions. Today I want to talk about something called self-parenting and affirmations, 2 most important parts of recovery. Self-parenting is a concept where we learn how to be able to parent, to be able to look at our history and our background, be able to learn from it and grow from it, and look at what our needs are and how to get our needs met. There's a technique to doing this. Very simple technique. It's not too complicated, but it does work. So self-parenting means I, as an adult, am going to meet my inner child, my little child, and learn how to parent that child. That child may not have had things accomplished as a child, but then with the help of others, things can happen as an adult. You've all seen that bumper sticker. It's never too late to have a happy childhood. Well, that's true, because I can have 2 choices. I can look at my past and I can beat myself up over it, or I can stay in a state of misery, or I can look at it positively, learn from it, and grow from it. You all know when I wrote my book on codependency, the title of it is Learning to Value Your Childhood, Your History is Your Teacher. I have learned over the years, my history is my greatest teacher. My experiences are my greatest teacher. The things I've gone through in life are my greatest teachers. And so what I want you to try to do in doing self-parenting is a simple technique to doing it. As I said, I'll go over this again at the end and show you these things. We ask you to take some time to sit down with a blank piece of paper and try to make believe you are a little child in the first 10 years of your life, and then to write down on paper your fantasy family. See, children are good at fantasies. And believe it or not, one of the things that's hard to do for codependents is get us out of our head. because we think too much, we analyze too much, and we're always trying to figure everything out, and we're always trying to control everything. So we have to learn how to be a child. Children are very spontaneous, children are open, and children very many times can see things we can't see. And so we tell you to sit down, write a composition entitled My Fantasy Family. Give yourself permission to be a little boy or girl. And if you had the power to create on paper your fantasy family, the family you always wanted. Now, there's nothing to do with your real families. You're not being disloyal. You don't have to be guilty. But what you'll be able to do is look at deep down inside of you and create that fantasy. It's a fantasy. And children are great at fantasies because they're still at that stage. And so create this on paper. For example, when I did mine, I created a mom and dad, a mom that would give me space and give me distance, a mom that would allow me to be a little child. I never was that. I was overprotected. I wanted a dad that would do things with me that normal dads do. Have a catch, go to a baseball game, do things and kind of be daddy's connection. My father came from the old country, didn't understand a lot of this. And so I learned a lot of codependency from him, but didn't really get some of my needs met as a child. I wanted to live in a place where there'd be no people. I wanted to live on a beach, my closest neighbor about 9 miles away. The reason behind that was I grew up in the Italian compound where everything was insane and crazy. There were about, I don't know, I must have had so many gumas and gubas, I don't know what I had after a while. Literally, my house was Grand Central Station, and literally, I don't know half the people that came through my house. I never had that close connection or bonding with people. And I'm learning now, I want to be able to have some space just for me. And then, yes, I want to connect with others, but connect on occasion, not constantly. I need a sense of peace in myself. And so when I made this fantasy, I basically wanted just to be a simple little child. But what you learn from your fantasy family, you'll be able to identify your needs. And that's what's important. And that's why doing a fantasy opens up a door. For example, one of my needs is to be around people to give me space and give me distance. I don't want to be smothered anymore. And so what I learned is, as an adult in recovery, I can make choices today. Choices about who I'm around, what I'm doing. I can choose my friends. I have the power as an adult. I didn't have that as a child. I can also ask for my needs. You know, one of my needs was to just be a kid. And so I learned something called a surrogate. Let me explain that to you. For example, my dad didn't do normal things with me. So as an adult, I always wanted to go to Cooperstown. So I got a friend of mine to be my surrogate dad. We spent 3 days in Cooperstown. We had a ball. We had a lot of fun. I got to have catch on Doubleday Field. I got to do some of the things I never did as a child. And I'm learning now that it's okay. See, it's okay to get your needs met. And sometimes you have to be able to ask for help and ask for guidance in doing that. But to learn how to develop a sense of boundaries, a sense of need. Fantasy family allows you to do that. And I've learned something over the years by doing this exercise. For example, I had a young couple come to see me from Narcotics Anonymous. They had asked me to perform their wedding. And I sat down and talked to them and I said, you know, try to find out what they wanted in their wedding. And they said to me, Vince, we're so confused. Our families are driving us crazy. One wants to have this extravaganza wedding. The other one wants to have this. The other one, we don't, you know, it's not what we want. I said, well, listen, do me a favor. Sit down. They gave me a yellow pad. I said, sit down and put on paper your fantasy wedding. Make believe your families don't exist. Create your fantasy wedding on paper. About 45 minutes later, they came back, gave it to me. I read it and I said, guess what? This is your wedding. They said, really? I said, yeah. It's not important about your families right now. It's about the two of you. And so their fantasy wedding, we did a ceremony based around the 12 steps and the recovery program. They were both in NA. And for the reception, of course, they had no alcohol, nothing there negatively. For the reception, the two of them shared their recovery stories instead of doing all the traditional stuff. And by the way, everybody had tears in their eyes and they loved it. See, sometimes we keep trying to make sure everybody else is happy. You have to look within what works for you. And that's why at times you got to be able to make some decisions that may not be easy to make, but you got to learn how to take care of yourself and not go back and look at things from the past. For example, I got a phone from a lady from Adult Children of Alcoholics meeting, a friend of mine for a long time. She's from Philadelphia. She called me up and she said, Vince, I'm getting married. I said, congratulations, great. But I'm going to ask you a favor. I said, what's the favor? She said, well, I made a decision. I'm not inviting my father to my wedding. My father's a severe alcoholic. He came to my sister's wedding and just about destroyed it. He knocked the cake over, created all kinds of problems, and my sister was devastated. I'm not inviting him to my wedding. I want to ask you if you would be my surrogate dad for the wedding. I said, that's interesting. I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. So I got to dress up. I got to walk her down the aisle. I got to dance with her to daddy's little girl. I got to have a lot of fun. And really, in reality, she felt really good about that because she wanted to have something different for her wedding. See, I really believe this concept of self-parenting is a very powerful concept, and it does work. And we have to learn in recovery how to be able to get our needs met, to get them met from healthy people, and be able to realize the fact that as we build and grow as individuals and as people, I don't have to sit around and feel sorry for myself anymore. I have the power to meet my needs. I have the power to make changes. I have the power to set boundaries. These are things that are part of me. The self-parenting process teaches me how to let go of control and fears and just be able to be myself and be in touch with me. So take some time and write your fantasy family so you can then identify your needs and then learn to get those needs met from people that are open to meet those needs. Too many of us have spent a long time waiting for people to meet our needs who for years have said, no, I'm not going to meet your needs. And then we get angry and we get upset. We get caught up in our expectations. I can't do that. It means I got to be able to be the parent to my child, to help my child to grow. And it's interesting, there's a beautiful book. If you want to go to Amazon and pick it up, it's pretty cheap. You can't get it in regular print, but basically a lot of them are available on Amazon. It's called The 12 Steps to Self-Parenting. Pretty beautiful book. And it really talks in that book about using the 12 steps as a parenting tool to be able to nurture and take care of your inner child. And I love that concept. And the whole philosophy behind the book is that we have to learn to let go of control to be able to heal with the energy and the power of love. And that's why in the second part of this session today, we talk about affirmations, learning how to affirm myself in a positive way. Because here's the major rule. In the next 2 weeks, we're going to do family of origin and inner child work. Before you can do either family of origin or inner child work, you have to be able to approach this with a positive attitude. See, it's about healing. It's not about finding out what's wrong with me. We're very analytical. I know most codependents, myself included. I can always find out something wrong. I can always analyze myself to death. And we're good at this. So take a break, okay? Because how many times you analyze yourself, you'll find something. And many of us have found stuff's not even there because we needed to have something to work on. Take a break, all right? Learn to relax a little bit. So we have to learn how to affirm ourselves in a positive way. And that's why it's important to learn the process of affirmation. Many of us have been brainwashed negatively. We're brainwashed to look at things negatively. Now we have to be able to change that to something positive. How do I do that? Just some simple exercises that will help you. One of my favorite exercises, I love doing it at night before I go to bed, and I share it with you. It only takes a few seconds. Most of us go in the bathroom before we go to bed at night. So you're looking at yourself in the mirror. I want you to look yourself directly in the eye and say, you're special, you're beautiful, and I love you. Want to really have some fun, go up to the mirror and kiss yourself goodnight. It's an adventure, what can I tell you? And I know we'll be uncomfortable doing this. We're not used to it. See, we keep waiting for somebody else to tell us these things. We have to learn how to acknowledge them for ourselves because every one of us is special, beautiful, and loved. We have to learn to love ourselves and see the beauty inside of ourselves. See, I got to share this with you. I shared it so many times. There are no knights in shining armor, and there are no Lady Godivas. There's just nothing out there but a bunch of good old-fashioned human beings with our idiosyncrasies, our little nutty, crazy things that we do. Isn't it great to be human? And the bottom line is we have to learn how to either parent ourselves, take care of ourselves, and affirm ourselves in a positive way. Another great adventure to do. Ask 2 or 3 people that you really trust. Ask them to write you letters of affirmation, telling you everything they like about you. But tell them nothing negative. Tell them just to write down everything they like about you and then give it to you. Now I'm going to tell you a secret. If you get those letters from other people and you read them, make sure there's a box of tissues next to you. I'm going to tell you, people can see the goodness in us that we cannot see in ourselves, that is so powerful and so beautiful. We are the toughest people on ourselves. It's amazing. So we have to learn to let up a little bit, to relax, and be able to simply affirm ourselves in a positive way by listening to other people. And I don't know about you, but I have a hard time with this too, because people give me compliments. I kind of cringe on the inside a little bit. You're allowed to have compliments. You're allowed to be okay. You don't have to keep beating yourself up all the time. So keep it simple, okay? And you can actually ask 10 or 15 people if you want, but at least 2 or 3 just to get you started. Then when you're done, I want you to write a love letter to yourself, telling you everything that you like about you as a person. Have a lot of fun doing it. Let it all hang out. You know, and we have an old saying in AA, you know, sometimes we have to fake it till we make it. But put it all out there. Want to really have some fun, if you're done writing it, mail it to yourself. You'll finally get a love letter in the mail. It's fantastic. See that? I keep waiting for somebody else to send me a love letter. Send myself one. It's totally amazing. You come right down to it. But affirmations are a key part of this process of recovery. Because deep down inside, all of us have to learn how to think positively, live positively. We live in a very insane and a very dysfunctional world. And by the way, it's supposed to be that way. The bottom line is, I can get all caught up in it, or I begin to affirm myself and see the beauty inside of me. And I'm going to tell you a secret. If you truly do work on affirmations and affirm yourself, then your energy will go out to other people. I really believe that we share with people by energy, by spirit, by the way we look at ourselves. If I see myself as a good, healthy, positive person, and I feel good about myself, that spirit will go out to others. Doing affirmations also will teach you the value of doing something and being repetitive. For example, a lady friend of mine who teaches first grade told me this after one of these lectures I gave. And she said, I tried it, Vince. Well, what did you do? She said, well, I teach first grade. And so what I did was I put a full-length mirror in my classroom. And when the kids came in the morning, I made them stand in front of the mirror and say, you're special, you're beautiful, and I love you. Well, the first time I did, the kids would go, especially when I love you, and they'd run. They weren't used to this. She made them do it every day, every day, every day, every day. After about 3 or 4 months, the kids would fight to get in front of the mirror. She couldn't get them away from the mirror. They kept saying it over and over again, saying, actually making poses and everything in front of the mirror. See, once we break down those idiosyncrasies, those crazy things that we do, we have to learn to loosen up and see the beauty in ourselves and life. Life is to be celebrated. And that's one of the reasons I don't want you guys doing any type of family of origin work or inner child work. This was a hard thing for me to experience in my own life because I was used to working with a negative world. We don't want you to do any of this work unless you're doing it with a positive attitude. Everything's about healing. It's about learning. It's about growing. No matter what your childhood was in those first 10 years, whatever it was is what it was supposed to be. The secret is, can I embrace it? Can I learn from it? Can I grow from it? And all experiences we go through, even negative experiences, can become positive teachers. We have to work through them. That's really what it's really all about. And that's why this isn't magic, because I know how hard it is to let go of your head. We all have that Italian disease called oncapatosa, which means brickhead in Italian. We always got to do it the hard way first. Then we wake up. And so a lot of the work that we're going to do to go through this family of origin process is really important. I mentioned to you before, probably in the fall, I'm going to try to start a couple of groups to take people through this process. I'll let you know more about that in the future. But the bottom line is we have to be able to work on this stuff and process it to the best of our ability. And that's why it needs to be shared. It needs to be opened up. And again, if you want to share it and connect with it, that's why I tell you to have 2 or 3 people to work this with and to be able to process it with. And that's really important. And so we work on this process of affirmations. And there are many ways of affirming yourself. Let me tell you a story. Years ago, when I was a priest, I did a day of recollection for paraplegics. It was a yearly thing that I did. And I met this gentleman who was in a wheelchair and pretty well twisted his body. And basically, he was doing these exercises in front of a mirror. And I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm just affirming how special and beautiful I am. That to me was so powerful. That's why I picked a lot of this up. God has says teachers in our lives in so many different ways, in so many different directions. And we actually have to be open to learn from them. And it's not the big things, it's the little things we learn, the little things we experience. I've learned over the years that positive affirmations are very fantastic. My wife even taught me something. At home, I have something called a love box. Now, later on, I'm going to show you how to use a God box and to use a love box. The love box means that a lot of times I get notes from people thanking me for something, telling me how this helped out, that helped out. I used to read them to make me feel good. Then I throw them away. My wife said, stop. She said, you got a gold mine. Put them in a love box. And if you get down one day and depressed, get your love box out. Read your affirming letters. Bring it back to you again. Do things that are positive. We say this in the program all the time. To hang around positive persons places, and things. That's not just a saying. I have to learn to be able to build positive people in my life, people I can share things with, people I can trust, people I feel safe with. But only until you feel safe with yourself can you feel safe with somebody else. And that's what's important. And so you learn from that, you grow from it. So we have to learn the process. And so do the affirmations, learn about yourself. Look at the beauty inside of yourself as a person. Look at the things you've accomplished over your life. Every one of us is a very beautiful and special human being. Every one of us is special. And so affirmations and self-parenting go together. Because how can I parent myself if I'm not positive about the parenting? I want to be able to have some fun and to enjoy life. Life is to be celebrated and to be enjoyed. Life is something that you're able to experience, to go through it. And don't sit around and just feel sorry for yourself. Get out there, get your moxie on, have some fun, loosen up, enjoy people around you. And if somebody that you're close to doesn't want to do it, that's okay. You do it. You see, I have to learn the importance of looking at life in a positive way. I know it's not easy, believe me, because so many of us have been programmed the opposite way. I don't want to live in the woe is me world. The world will change, things around us will change, everything else changes. Who knows what goes on? I got to work in my world and in the world of my recovery. And I thank God every day for the gift of recovery. Because without recovery, we'll be able to do some of these things. And so I'll give you some things to do that will help you to take you through this process and show you how to do them. Okay. I mentioned a couple last week, but I'll get back over them again. The first thing I asked you to do is get yourself 2 notebooks. You can go to the $1.25 store. I got to call the $1.25 store now. It's changed again. Okay. Next week might be the $1.35 store, but that's all right. Anyway, at the $1.25 store, get 2 notebooks. One's going to be your negative notebook, and one's going to be your positive notebook. We have to learn how to separate our negative and positive feelings. It's a journaling process. Second thing is find a photograph of yourself as a little child. One that can be your favorite photograph. And that's important in doing inner child work. So find that photograph and begin to work on it. Thirdly, there are 7 questions I'd like you to look at. These are the 7 questions that help you do your inventory for your family of origin work. Now, I posted those 7 questions on Facebook, on the website under Vince's Corner. If you go down to the bottom, right, Loretta? If you go down to the bottom, it says accessories or something. What is it, Loretta? What's it?
Additional resources.
Additional resources, okay. You'll see the 7 questions there. Make a copy of them, and there's 7 basic questions on doing an inventory of your childhood. Remember, in doing that inventory, don't just concentrate on your blood family, because we were raised by many different families. For example, in the questions, they asked you questions like, what is your perception? And perception is important. Always remember I told you before, I can take 8 brothers and sisters from the same family, put them in 8 separate rooms, I'll come out with 8 different families. Everybody perceives the family differently. Your perceptions, no matter what they are truthful. They're yours. Okay? You have to realize that. Now, the first question is, what was your perception of yourself, your perception of your parents, your blood parents in growing up as a child? What was your perception? And by child, we mean the first 10 years of your life. The second question is, what is your perception of your neighborhood, your cultural, and your environment? How did they affect you in growing up as a child? What patterns, what things did you pick up from neighborhood and environment? I talked about that earlier with me. What is your perception of your religious upbringing? I joked about this earlier, but my parents took me, placed me into their belief system, which really wasn't mine. Then later on, things change. But it has a powerful effect on us as a person. What is your perception of your peers in growing up? How did you interact with them? How do they treat you? What is your perception of relationships? How did my childhood affect relationships in the course of my life? These are all questions you can go through, and I have them in more detail under Vince's corner. So just go down to the bottom, you'll see the 7 questions, and then just try to work on them the best you possibly can. And by the way, take your time. You don't have to have them done by next week, okay? I'm giving you techniques and ways to do this. And then I'll show you as we go through family of origin and inner child, how to package all this together. I'd like you to take the time to write your fantasy family. And from it, to work on identifying your needs. And the most important thing is to also get those letters of affirmation from other people and write that love letter to yourself. All these things are part of the process. And if you want to, I mentioned that book on the 12 steps to self-parenting. You can pick that up on Amazon. But it's so beautiful because it all works together. Now, the reason why I give you these different types of assignments is because I want you to have material to work with as we go through this process and work on it. Because I really believe this, and I'll share it with you as strongly as I can. If you have the courage and the openness to go back and look at your childhood years, you'll learn everything about you, your traits, your characteristics. I'm grateful today for the therapist that helped me with this process. I look back on my family history and my parents, as beautiful as they were. I picked up my addictive personality from my mom. My mom had an addiction problem. And as a result, they also picked up many of my behaviors from my mom. She also was a compulsive overeater. So I picked up that pattern also. And yet at the same time, I loved the hell out of my mom. At the same time that I'm picking up these traits and these characteristics, which I carried into my adult life and carried on. I never knew this. I also realized today I grew up in an environment with a family. My father taught me my codependency traits. Do everything for everybody, but never do anything for yourself. My father's mantra. Always do, 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 do. But the hardest thing I ever had to learn how to do was how to receive. It's easy to do. It's hard to receive. It's hard just to say thank you. And that's important. Because sometimes we get caught up in worrying. We try to get caught up in trying to get all these things straightened out. No. Go back and look at your history. Affirm the person that you are. Don't try to be somebody else. And realize the fact that you are the only one there is of you on the face of this earth. And so the affirmations will teach us to be able to keep looking at the positive stuff inside of ourselves as a person. I'm going to share this with you. I don't want anybody doing family of origin work unless they're doing it with a positive attitude. An attitude of learning, an attitude of growing, an attitude of new things and new directions. That's what's really important. That's the key, everything that we do. And that's all part of developing this concept. As you go through this, if you have any questions or things come up, give me a call. But it's really important to go back to those first 2 things that we did. Learn as much as you can about codependency. Try to build a little support system for yourself. Basically just people you can share this stuff with and work with on this. Begin to realize the importance of separating your feelings, getting in touch with your negative versus your positive, put the two of them together. The bottom line is get those, basically those letters from other people, do the affirmation exercises, and just realize how important it is. We want to really have some fun. The fun is part of what recovery is about, right? Okay. When you wake up in the morning, run in the bathroom, stare in the mirror, and I got news for you. If you don't laugh, you got a problem. That is one funny sight in the morning, isn't it? Now try saying those affirmations in the morning as you look in the mirror and say, you're special, you're beautiful, and I love you. That's weird. And yet it's beautiful at the same time. Because the reason why I say nighttime and daytime is because at night it might be a little easier to say it. In the morning, when we're just waking up, it's not so easy. It reminds us to do affirmations both in the good times and in the bad times. I have learned that when I'm in a funk or things are happening to me, by doing affirmations, being able to get out of that funk does work. And so we have to learn to realize the fact that we have a choice. Negative is part of our life. You have to have the yin and the yang though. You have to have positive balance out the negative. So when I do my work, I can look at what happened to me. Even if people say to me sometimes, how can I go back and look at a person and do a healing with a person who sexually abused me? I said, first of all, do the healing with yourself. Yes, you were sexually abused, whatever happened to you. But today, what are the positive lessons I can learn from that? It might just be, now I know what abuse is, and I will not allow anyone to abuse me again. I'll be able to set my boundaries accordingly. There's always good that can come from negative. Never my fertilizer theory. From crap, if you process it, comes vitamins and minerals of growth. And so all these things are part of our journey, part of what we do in life. And so try and work on affirmations, work on self-parenting, learn how to get your needs met, and realize you are the architect of your child. Get in touch with that little child and help this process along. Learning just to be open to new things and new directions in the course of our journey. Okay, so with all these things in mind, we're going to start family of origin work next week, and then we'll do inner child work. But I'll take you through the process of how to do this. And then later on, if you get your group started, you can do groups on Zoom, it doesn't make a difference. Then basically, if you need help with the group, call me, let me know, and I'll come on with you once in a while. Make sure you're doing it. Okay? All right, my prayer tonight, I just want to be able to ask God to bless us and guide us as we embark on this journey of recovery. Help us to do our work, but above all, help us to do it in a positive way. Let us pray. God, we come before you today in prayer. We ask for your guidance and we ask for your direction. We ask that you always be there with us. Help us to look within. Help us to heal, to make peace with the past. Help us to be open to new things and new directions in the future. Let us always remember that you walk along our side, that you're always with us, that you guide us and protect us in all that we do. And so as a family gathered together in prayer, we ask you please to help us to discover, to be open, and to learn from all the experiences in the course of our journey in life. We pray and we ask for this grace. We ask for this, and we ask this in your name. Amen. Now I'm going to ask that you unmute, and we're going to really give it a great shot at doing the Serenity Prayer.
God, Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. God's will, not mine, be done.